everyone. Welcome to the webinar. We're on our 8th session now. Can you believe it with the Loan Atlas team? We're so excited. While we're waiting here, please feel free to find the chat box in Zoom, say hello, and then find the question and answer box also in Zoom where you can ask me the rest of the speakers questions throughout today's call. We'll definitely have plenty of time for your questions at the end. Now, to introduce our call today, we have two very special return guests, Josh Metal and Tim Brahim with the Loan Atlas, and two new guests, Mark Robertson and Dio Vanucci. And I'll let Josh do some more introducing. So Josh, take it away.
Hey, everybody. It's wonderful to be back. And Diana, Dan, Barry, thanks for having us. It's great to be here for the 8th time with you, and hopefully there's many more. Appreciate you. This is going to be a really special call. And it occurred to me today as I was preparing for this call that, we had 2,000 people register for this event. Hi, Barry. Good morning. How are you, sir?
What's up, bro?
Good afternoon in your side of the country. We had 2,000 people register for the call, and we'll probably have somewhere between, we've got about 600 right now, maybe 1,000 that attend. So the first thing I wanted to do is just congratulate every single one of you that are here. I think that many people in the mortgage industry fall into this reactive cadence where they're not as intentional about doing the things that are important, and they get drawn off into what seems to be urgent. And if you compound that behavior over 10 years, 20 years, a career, you don't actually ever transcend to the next level and the next level. So I just want to salute all of you that are here on the West Coast on a Monday morning, on the East Coast on a Monday afternoon, because you're part of the community that is doing the important over the urgent. I'd also just share that, as I look at my own company, about 10% of our producers are doing roughly 75% of the volume. 10% are doing 75% of the volume. So there's another subset of this group that's here today that won't just be on the call. They're going to be locked in. They're going to be learning from every question and every answer, and they're going to be taking what they learn and applying it. So I just want to encourage you to be not only the 50% that's here, but be the 10%. Be the 10% that prioritizes your becoming the person that attracts success rather than just being on the call and chasing success this morning. So I'm going to introduce here now Mr. Mark Robertson, a great friend of mine, an incredible producer. Mark, what'd your branch do last month in production?
My branch, 19 million.
Not a bad month.
18 and change, yep.
Congratulations. Mark is someone that I identify as that 10% that is on every training and then immediately implements and executes on what he's working on. And we're going to focus on the point of sale. What is Mark doing at the point of sale to get yeses, get trust, obtain influence, and move people from first call to close? Also joined is Dio Vanucci. Pay very close attention to this guy's scripting. He is one of the best scripted originators in the entire country, and someone that you can tell is such a student of the game and also executes what he's learning in calls like this. Really excited to have Dio. And of course, almost needs no introduction, Tim Brahim is here with us today. Tim, thanks for being here.
Thanks, bro. Hey, can I just mention something real quick before these guys take center stage?
Please.
So for probably a combined 60 years, Barry and I have been saying the same thing, which makes us kind of old, actually. That's a little frightening, bro, to be adding up those totals. But for 60 years, you and I have both been saying to originators that one of the most efficient ways to make more money in this business is to really refine and hone in on your sales presentation skills, how you counter objections, how you present yourself, how you gain authority, how you build trust, and how you convert a higher percentage of the leads that you talk to. I mean, that's what mastery looks like in this business, is the words that come out of your mouth, the way that you present them, the historical data that you show, and the way that you, as I said, build relationships. So what I really want you to be focused on, everybody, when you're watching these presentations today, and then when we get into the Q&A and the back half of the call, is like, this isn't one of those things where like you're multitasking or you're in your car. I mean, it's the finite details. It's sometimes one sentence that you're not saying that means everything, that can be parlayed into another commission check every single month, which makes you several $1,000s. So it's the minutia that I really want you to pay attention to, the details, because that's where the rubber meets the road.
Yeah, Tim, you're so right. And I used to record my phone calls with clients. Now it's so easy to do on Zoom.
Audio cassette like me, bro.
Well, yeah, exactly. I would record them because it wasn't so bad as 8-track, but yeah, but audio, I would record them, and I would listen to them later on. And the benefit of that is that when you're in the heat of the moment, it's really difficult to. You ever say something you don't realize you said, and then somebody will say, "Oh no, this is what you said." Oh, really? I didn't even know I said that. But if you listen to it later, you can hear how you say things, but you can also hear their response to how you say things. And it's just some fine tuning that does that. Diana, we used to do that here internally with everybody, with all the sales teams. And what I would do is I would listen to their sales conversations, and then I would listen to them and I would point out things to them. It's extremely beneficial if we do that ourselves. So you're going to be hearing from some of the very, very best here that their presentations are very well refined. We could always get better. Diana will tell you, almost every presentation I give, right afterwards, I get on the phone and we make little tweaks every single time. And I've been doing this more years than I want to admit to, Tim. I'm, presenting professionally for well in excess of 30 years. And still, after every one, Diana will tell you, we take a step back and we make some tweaks to try and improve. So it's never ending improvement. You're never done.
Yep.
Barry, you wrote a book called Money in the Streets. And anybody who hasn't read that book, you should do it, because you'll learn a lot of really great things about Barry and where he came from. But that was a term that his mother used, that there's money in the streets in America. And what Barry learned, and what I heard from you in that book, Barry, was there are money in the streets, but you have to be the person who's going to bend over and pick it up. You have to do something with that opportunity. And there's going to be a lot of opportunities here, but we can't make people implement and execute and actually practice. So that's up to you. That's your responsibility. But we're going to leave you some big clues, and we're going to leave you some money in the streets to bend over and pick up today.
Yeah, I just noticed that people are saying my mic level was a little low. Is that better, guys? Did I try to
way better?
Stop using the sexy voice, okay?
Well, listen, you got to do something here.
It's Monday morning.
You got to do something. Well, I'll leave it to you guys. You guys know what you're doing here, and so you're in for a treat, everybody. We got such a nice audience, 851 and counting. So it's going to be a great time together, everybody.
Thanks for being here this morning, Barry.
Got it.
So, team, I want to start with, before we get into what I call the external game and scripts and tactics that these guys are masters of, I was having a conversation with Katrinka Condi. She broke a record for production last month. She did $12.3 million in production. I'm so proud of her. I hired her as a production partner, and she was just an assistant to an originator. And it wasn't within a year that I was like, we have to fire this woman from this job. Like, she has to be out changing lives and talking to customers. And I was having a coaching call with her yesterday. She's also a coach and faculty member inside of the Loan Atlas, and congratulating her on her $12.3 million month. And she had told me that already in the month of April, she'd received $6.5 million in contracts. And she was kind of giving me this story that sounded like, I don't know where all these deals are coming from. They're just kind of like falling from the trees, and I don't even know where they're all coming from. And I said to her, what are you doing differently? Something has changed. Like, you've always been a prolific producer, but you've gotten to this place where it's almost effortless. What is it? And there was a silence for a good long time. And she said, I've been spending all of my effort and time and intentionality on focusing on the inside game, making sure that when I get to those calls, my energy is a 5 out of 5, not a 3 out of 5. And I've been meticulously pruning out of my morning routine, my days, my weeks, anything that is negative. If my energy comes down when I engage with it, I just turn it off. I just don't engage. So, Dio, Mark, I want to start with that question. How do you guys think about the inside game before we get to the outside game, which is what you say and what you do? And what are you doing to to show up to these calls, these point of sales calls with new customers and referral partners, so that the energy that our words ride on tells the story before we say the words?
Man, good morning, everyone. I can't tell you how great it is to be here with many of my mentors, Tim, Barry, Josh. It's just an honor to be in the room. And that question has never been more true for me ever in my life. I feel like these guys have been providing me the tools to deal with what I'm dealing with right now. And so, it really is for me when I look across the industry, and Josh mentioned this, right? But the 10% who are doing the 75%, the thing that I think that they have in common is work ethic. They show up every single day, no matter what, and they execute no matter what. Number two is confidence. I would be willing to bet, and I haven't talked to Katrinka, but I've seen her results. And I know that Josh has, I see Krista has, I know that Tim has, but I'd be willing to bet she's feeling more confidence than she has ever felt right now. Because when you are confident and you are leading, people will follow and they want leadership. And so for me, I have been struggling with that. I have been struggling just not really being in my true flow state. So number one for me is sleep. Everything for me comes down to sleep. Number two is execute as many small things, small promises as I can to myself first thing in the morning. So that means getting out of bed, right when I'm getting out of bed, and I immediately go to the gym, because if I can just knock those two things out, it's like boom, boom. Okay, like I've made those promises to myself and I've executed on those promises, and now it gets better. Three is just like a little bit of meditation. And if you need to start slow, like I did, I'm hooked now, but it took me, I don't know how long it took me, too long, right? Just put your phone down and go for a walk. That is like, I think Ryan Holiday said when I was with Tim and Josh one time, I've never felt worse after a walk. But if you just get great sleep, execute on a couple of really small things first thing in the morning, right? Go for a walk without your phone. That urgent stuff, which I have an affinity to really get in front of and deal with, kind of goes to the side enough that you can get perspective on what's really important. And I think just setting up your day that way makes a huge difference.
Yeah, and guys, I see a couple of you have hands up. We will do Q&A at the end. You might want to drop your questions into the chat, but we can come to you at the end. Mark, I think that the intentional stillness that you mentioned, the setting yourself up so you're not in that reactive, what happened in the Strait of Hormuz first thing this morning, and then all the dominoes fall in a different direction because you've engaged the chaos. But if you engage the calm and the intentional first, it just creates such separation between the engagements that a customer or referral partner is having with you and they might be having with somebody else. So I appreciate you saying that. What about you, Dio? What do you do as it relates to the inside game? How do you think about that?
Yeah, thanks, Josh. Hey, guys, glad to be here as well. And, I mean, like Mark, I think it does, having that routine, getting your sleep, taking that time. And for me, it has to be in the morning. I know that differs for some people, but I have got to get present and get within myself, every morning. And if I don't do that, I find that my day just, starts all over the place. But even more specifically, when it comes to dealing with my clients, really it helps for me. I really try to remember a mental model. And years ago, early on in my career, I think that I had that kind of thought process of, I've got to sell myself. I've got to sell these people a loan. I've got to convince them to go with me. And so now, I don't think I need to sell a loan. I go into every conversation with a customer thinking I need to understand this person. I need to understand how they decide and then guide that decision. And so setting myself up and remembering that before I answer my phone, that another human being on the other, end of the line that's got problems. I've got solutions for, most likely, hopefully. But it's another human who's got feelings and concerns and fears. And it's not my job to sell them anything. It's my job to help guide them on that path. And so for me, that was the biggest change mentally, because it took the pressure off of me and took it from being a transactional environment to being more of a relational environment. So I know that was a little bit of a different answer, but that's really the way I kind of see it.
It's definitely mindset. When you go in seeing dollars versus a mindset of, I want to understand this person, because how do you really help them if you don't understand all the thing that's going on in their life? That is so valuable. So thanks for that, Dio. I really appreciate it. I was recently asked in an interview I was doing, hey, you've been in the mortgage industry for 25 years. If you could tell your younger self something that you've learned today, what would it be? And the thing that immediately came up for me was this Jim Rohn quote that I've gone back to so many times, that success isn't something that you attain through pursuit. It's something that you attract by the person that you've become. And so I think it's just important that we spend a little time talking about, we can give you the best tips and scripts and tactics in the world, but if you're empty inside or you're feeling negative inside, the energy that those words ride on will land flat, and you won't create that separation. So, all the gray hairs on this call know this. There's some younger folks in this call that maybe you've never heard that before. And what these guys are telling you is to invest in yourself first and then invest in these scripts and techniques and tactics. Mark, I want to send the next one over to you. We have a process at the point of sale. And the first call with a customer, we call it dreams and goals call inside of the Loan Atlas. And the second call is our pre-purchase consultation. That's where we're really solving the problems that we uncover through curiosity in that dreams and goals call. So I'm going to start with you, Mark. Tell us a little bit about your mindset. And I guess maybe the right question is like, what's the desired outcome or end result of that dreams and goals call? And then tactically, what questions are you asking to get deeper than other originators are?
Yeah, I'll try to go high level in the spirit of time. And I'm just going to pull out the things that I think are the most important that you guys can implement on your dreams and goals call to be better, right? You heard about Barry saying that he recorded his calls, and you heard Tim say, were you like me? Was it on a cassette? And I saw someone in the question and answer say, what is a cassette? And maybe Tim, if there's time, you can you can drill down on that for them. But what I would say in the dreams and goals call is, here is the most important question that you can ask. Okay. So the question that I ask in the dreams and goals call is, if Josh is my client, I say, hey, Josh, before we get into all of this, what is the catalyst? Why now for you and your family? What's driving this desire to purchase a home? And then be quiet. Because whatever they say next is they are going to spoon feed you what is most important to them, okay? And it is going to be the school district. It's going to be, we're tired of renting. It's going to be, whatever the thing is that's most important. And here's a heads up. If you're talking to Josh, his catalyst may be different than his wife Hillary's, but I have found the most important thing I can do in the entire dreams and goals call is to figure out the answer to that question. Mindset, right? I just told you guys vulnerably that I'm struggling right now. Like my mind is like constantly thinking about the urgent and the things that I have to do, and just I'm super stressed. I'm not, my normal, what I would consider my normal self. I've got a little more fight or flight in me right now. So my mindset when I go in is, how can I serve this person? I literally look at my phone and I consciously say, oh, I cannot wait to help this person. To Dio's point, they need something. They're calling me for a reason. Uh, I am going to put on a massive service. And I love that. That gets me into my heart. That's who I am as a person, and that's where I show up best. So my mindset, I'm going into it like, how can I serve this person? The best question that I can ask possibly is, what's the catalyst for this? When I get the answer to that question, hey, we're about to have a baby. Hey, it's the school district. Whatever it is, my whole team knows about that thing. One of my partners calls it an emotional leverage point. So if later in the transaction, if Josh told me, hey, we need to get into this new school district, it's really important to our son, then the entire transaction, whatever happens, hey, if the appraisal comes in short, we need to have a plan, because I know how important it is to you and your family that we get your son into this school district. I tie everything back to their why and the reason that they're running. So that, to me, go in with the heart of service, make sure you have that question answered, right? And then I do the basics. Where's the money? Income, assets, and debts. I'll ask those questions on the Dreams and Goals call. The next thing that I'll tell you is I use something called Plod. You can buy one for $100 and something. It hooks onto the back of your phone. I'll record the conversation. I'll put it into ChatGPT, upload the transcript, and it'll immediately email my team a recap of the call and the client at the same time. It has saved me hours and hours and hours. And if you guys can do me a favor, don't get too hung up on the technology in this call, because I feel like that's what happens a lot, but you can easily research that. It's called PLAUD. A lot of people know about it. A lot of them are using it, but I use that on my Dreams and Goals calls. And it has eliminated a lot of frustration on my team because they all know the color of the conversation. They all know where income, assets, and debts are coming from. They know like what I've covered on that call. The desired outcome, okay? This is where I'll end it. The desired outcome in my market, I get my teeth kicked in every day. My average loan amount's $1 million. My average credit score is like 740 something. People are buying $2 million houses. They're putting down $1 million. I'm competing with banks. It's all about rate. And I get crushed on interest rate every single day. So my only chance is to really show people how I provide value. And I don't believe I can say it, right? So in order to do that, I have to get them onto a screen share. So my desired outcome is to get them onto a screen share. How do I do that? Josh, you know what? This is such a great opportunity. I'm so excited to be working with you and your family. I'm going to have my team reach out and get these basics, and then we're going to schedule a time for a screen share, and I'm going to take you through a few different strategies. One of the strategies that we're crushing it with, and that clients are just absolutely amazed that it's happening, is a seller paid subsidy program. And I want to show you how this works. It's simple math. There's no tricks. But I want to show you how it works and how this strategy can help you build wealth and get the best terms possible in this market. And in 20 years, Josh, I've never seen our market yield buyers this type of opportunity. This is the only market I've ever been able to have these seller paid subsidies in, and it really is a game changer. So I really want to cover off on that with you. So we'll pull up on a screen share. I'll walk through this and other options. We'll go through all the things that you want to know, and then you're going to be really empowered to make the best decision when you're purchasing the house. How does that sound? I've never had anybody say no. Like, they all say yes, right? And so I then can get them onto a screen share and share those strategies with them. So that's what my Dreams and Goals call entails at a high level, and what I think the most important things are, right? Heart of service, what is the catalyst, income, assets, and debts, get to a screen share.
And Mark, you can tell just by the words that you use, right? A seller payment subsidy plan. And this is a game changer. It's one of the only markets in 20 years I've been able to use this. You're creating curiosity, but it's not an accident. Like those words are curated. The worst time to think about what you're going to say is in the moment. You want to practice those things. One of the things that we have put together inside of the Loan Atlas is a sales and scripting coach GPT. So you can literally download your call transcripts from Claude, you can or a Zoom, and you can drop it in here. And it's like having Tim Brahim and Mark Robertson and Dio Vanucci giving you advice on what those leverage points are that you hit and the leverage points that you might have missed. So my point with sharing that is that this stuff doesn't happen accidentally. Like you got to put in the work, man, to when you get up to the plate that you make contact with the ball. Also, in the chat, I saw there was a link to Katrinka Condi's Dreams and Goals call that her and Tim did. They did an interview in his podcast series, and Tim was buying a new home at the time. And she just went through the Dreams and Goals call with Tim. It was a masterpiece. So Anthony, if you'll drop that link in the chat, everybody should check out that call. Dio, over to you. The question is, what is that Dreams and Goals call to you? What's the desired end result? And what are the things that you're saying to create separation from other mortgage lenders, that if this person is going to talk to 3 people, what's the Dio difference?
Yeah, I got you. Thanks, Josh. Well, I would say the first difference is you need to get a real genteel Southern accent to alleviate the stress from the mortgage transit. No,
that's not reality, fair, man.
No, so for years, early on in my career, I was probably like many of the people on this call. My entire strategy was, get off the phone as quickly as possible on that discovery call. It's like, all I need your information. I don't need to talk about all this stuff. And then call those people back and give them a one rate payment, down payment quote. Like that was kind of my strategy, is move them through as quickly as I could. But I started losing a lot of deals. I was losing people left and right. And probably about a decade ago, I heard of a statistic. And so I don't know if any of you have looked at it, but NAR, National Association of Realtors, puts out a profile of buyers and sellers every single year. Every year they do it. And if you're a member, you get it for free. If not, you have to pay a fortune for it. But the interesting thing about that is, in that profile, over the last decade, it has been very consistent that almost 80 to 85% of home buyers use the first lender that they speak to. Now, I want to say that again. 80 to 85% of home buyers use the first lender that they speak to. And so when I really sat down and thought about that, I started wondering, well, how am I losing people if that's the case? But it also made me redirect my thoughts and think, I've got to do a better job of keeping these people somehow. And how do I do that? Well, I started really trying to figure out, why is it that people shop? What causes people to shop? Well, the psychology behind it, there's 2 primary reasons that people shop. Now, people will tell you all kinds of excuses, but the reality is people shop because they don't trust you, or they have unanswered questions or uncertainty. There is something out there that is bothering them, and it's going to cause them to go elsewhere. So for me, everything about the Dreams and Goals call is setting the frame for the rest of the transaction. Okay. And no matter how a client calls in, and when a client calls in, we all get that, hey, I'm just calling around looking for rates. We know how to get around that. And usually I'm going to say something to that like, well, hey, before we get too far into numbers, I want to make sure I understand your situation. So I'm actually giving you the right guidance and not just throwing out numbers. Is that okay? I've never had anybody say no. And so that leads me to the next thing, which is, and this is, I think, Josh, what you're referring to is, I will always tell someone, now, look, I've got a few questions for you. And these questions that I ask you are going to be a little different, because in all reality, the level of advice and guidance that I'm going to give you are different from any other mortgage originator. So when I ask that 30-year-old, What are you thinking about retirement? They're not caught off guard because I've already told them that I'm not just going to be asking them the typical questions. Now, of course, I'm going to go through the who, what, when, where, and why to get all the information I need in that discovery call. But ultimately, the goal, I want to build rapport and trust. Two, I want to discover their problem. And then three, I want to remove doubts and create certainty by the end of that call. And the way that I do that is as we go through and ask all those questions, first off, you'll find that asking people very good, curious questions and then listening, and not only listening, but going deeper. One of my favorite sentences is, tell me more about that. Somebody gives me an answer. Hey, tell me more about that. What drives that? And then just be quiet and let them talk. And that tends to just bring out all of the reasons, kind of like Mark said with the why. Tell me more about that. We'll get to the emotional level. And when you have that emotional trigger, then you really do have some serious leverage. But at the end of my discovery call, I'm going to lay out the next steps. Now, and this is very important because if I don't tell them what the path is going to look like and then deliver on that path, that's going to create that cognitive dissonance in their brain. They're going to start wondering, is my loan okay? Is this thing going like it should? So I lay out the next steps of the process, which, like Mark said, is the screen share, the pre-purchase consultation, as we call it. But ultimately, that's my goal, is to get them to that part and then set the stage for that next step.
It's interesting. You said that the two reasons why people shop, if I wrote it down right, is that people don't understand and people don't trust.
Yeah.
So I'm going through the process of buying a new home for my family for primary residence. It's the first time I've done it in 10 years. I mean, I built a home in between, but the first time I bought a home. And it was interesting to go through that process as someone who, has written thousands of loans, and to do it for myself, and how a different emotional experience was compared to buying investment properties. I bought a lot of investment properties over the last 10 years, but this is the first primary residence. And I made a decision to go with a non-QM loan, and it came down to three things. And I'm paying like 3/8 higher in rate than I would have if I would have went through the full financial oscopy. And I know I could qualify, but I got a bunch of tax returns, I got a bunch of investment properties, et cetera, et cetera. It came down to three things. Number one, I want certainty. I want to know when I tell my little girl that this is your bedroom and we're closing on May 15th, that we close on May 15th and I don't have to go renegotiate that commitment to her. Like, that scares the living daylights to fail my family. And I think every buyer has that in the back of their head. I'm not sure we key in on it enough. The second thing was, I wanted it to be fast. I knew that there's a lot of homes listed, but the right home, meaning the one that my wife says is the right home, only comes up once in a while. And when it does, I wanted to be able to get from contract to close faster than any other jumbo lender. And the third reason was I didn't want the friction. My life is so busy. I didn't want the financial oscopy of sourcing all the deposits, explaining all the tax returns, giving them the percentage ownerships of the entities. And I think if you, at the point of sale, if in your conversations, you can cue in on those leverage points, as you said, Mark, the things that are most important, as you said, Dio, if you can cue in on what's most important, you can add a lot of value around certainty, speed, and reduction of friction. If you can have more certainty, less time, less friction, and that's part of that first call, it creates incredible trust. And that's what you're trying to create in that first call, Dio.
Well, yeah. And Josh, something that I would say is what I realized through this is that the best mortgage operators, they don't compete in multi-lender scenarios, they prevent them. And this is how they prevent them, is by taking away the friction, demonstrating in that discovery or dreams and goals call, demonstrating your ability to manage that transaction effectively is the strongest thing that I did in my point of sale.
Real quick question. What's your average dreams and goals call time?
Typically 15 to 20 minutes, sometimes a little bit longer, but 15 to 20.
Mark?
Yeah, I'm more on the 15 side, but I did have a 37-minute the other day. Probably
Great.
skewed
And
my average.
it was just flowing and you just kept saying, tell me more about that. Tell me more about that. Let's peel the onion back.
No, it was fear on the client side. Like Dio said, I knew that if I didn't get them to a place where they felt confident and secure, I wasn't going to get them to the next stage. And this person needed a lot of challenging. He knew everything, but he knew nothing. And it was just something where I decided to take the extra time because I do believe he'll be my client, because I just don't think he'll trust anyone else.
And guys, that's active listening. When you're so locked in with that person that you can feel emotionally where they're at, you can almost finish the next word that's going to come out of their mouth. That's active listening. And when you sense those emotions, those things coming up for people, you just go deeper. So great job. Let's move to the next part of the sequence. And I know we're going to have lots of questions here, but the next part after the dreams and goals call is to get them to the pre-purchase consultation. So I'm going to send this one to you, Mark. You alluded in the dreams and goals call that kind of your hook that creates the curiosity is the seller payment subsidy. So talk a little bit about what happens in the pre-purchase consultation. We don't have time to do the full pre-purchase consultation. That's taught inside the Loan Atlas, but teach us about that component of the pre-purchase consultation.
Sorry, guys, I'm having a little bit of an audio issue. Give me 1 second here.
DJ Marky Robertson. Sorry. You're good, buddy.
Sorry, I like lost you guys, and now I got you in my headphones. I don't know what happened to my speakers. Was there a question for me? 'Cause I missed it. If so,
yeah, there was. So pre-purchase consultation. Let's move to that, and then tell us how. We don't have time to go through the full pre-purchase consultation, but you talked about the seller payment subsidy. So what is that, and how do you sell it and create separation between you and other originators with that tool?
Yeah. So first of all, Tim, who's one of my mentors, told me, "Hey, truth is the best script," right? And it really that resonates with me. And so I think that this strategy is amazing. Personally, I feel like it is like the best thing someone can do. A lot of people are like, "Oh, Jumbo, you could do that with Jumbo," and I have like an $18 million month last month that says you can do this with Jumbo, and I do it all the time. And so what I will do is I will use MBS Highway. I'll pull up, exactly what the market is doing. I'll tell them, that I believe sometime in the next 18 months or so, we're going to see a nice pocket of interest rates where we might be able to refinance. And to Dio's point, I immediately say, well, hey, the first thing that people think is, yeah, sure, you think that because you're going to get paid again, and I have to start a whole nother 30 years over. And then I'll show them like, hey, if I saved you this much money, if rates went down a half and you just kept making the same payments, here's how much interest you would save. And here's how much faster you'd pay the loan off. And so people are like, okay, cool. And then with showing them that visually on the screen, right? I say, this is why I'm different. Your bank will never call you and say, hey, we need to refinance you right now, because that loan is on their portfolio and they're collecting interest, and it is not in their best interest. So you're going to have to monitor this and listen for radio ads, and you're a doctor and you're, trying to do all these things. So if it resonates with you that you want someone who's constantly going to be on top of this and always has your best interest in mind, I'll do this exact math to tell you whether it's worth it or not. I'm your guy. Does that resonate with you? And somebody said, hey, how do you get a commitment, right? That's my first commitment right there. I'm setting them up. When they say it resonates with them, I'm taking that as they are my client. And so to me, that's a very soft initial commitment. So that's how I'm setting them up, right? And then I'm going to go and show them exactly what a seller payment subsidy looks like. Can I share my screen and just show you?
Please.
Okay. So this is a little spreadsheet, right? And I'm going to say, hey, here's the market interest rates right now on a 30-year fixed mortgage. And, this is where you're going to be on a $2.1 million loan with $735,000 down on a condo. That puts your loan amount at 1.365, Market rates today at 6.875 roughly. Mortgage payment 89.76. If we got the seller to subsidize this, and let's just say that we could get your interest rate down to 5.875, then your payment goes down by almost $1,000 a month. $900 is what you're saving, right? And I think in this situation, this was like a permanent buy down of $44,000. And so a lot of people are asking for a $50,000 reduction, and I'm saying, hey, this is going to save you money for as long as you're in this loan, and it's a 1 point below the market. And I'll show them that there's only been 1 point in the market in the last 3 years where we hit this interest rate. And so nobody knows, where things are going to go. But do we think that we could get this thing for, 2-1 and ask for $45,000? And a lot of times in my market, the answer is yes. And I'll show them what that means, by plugging in 2050 in here and what the rates are. Sorry, let me just back this up. I'll go 2050 and the whole thing, will change, and I could just show them exactly, what the payment difference is. And so that kind of starts our conversation. And then I'll tell them about a temporary buy down. And I'll say, listen, this is the strategy that I would use. And it does take some risk on your hand, but I believe that sometime in the next 18 months, rates are going down. I think if we get some peace talks in the Middle East, that there's going to be a lot of downward pressure on rates, and that certainly this throws a wrench into things. But if I were doing this, my risk appetite is okay. This is what I would do, and I then show them what a temporary buy down would look like. And I have like buy down calculator built into this, and so it'll just pull in the actual loan amount at 6.875. I know that a 2-1 buy down is going to cost me 31 grand. And that a 3-2-1 buy down is going to cost me $62,000. And I explained to them, like, look, here's what's happening. Every month, that chunk of money is giving you a subsidy in year one of $2,500. And so if we're 6 months down the road on this $2,500, then you've got what, 5, 10, 17.5 out of the whole bucket of 16.2 that's gone, but you're 62,000. But you're going to collect what's left in there, meaning, Josh, if I can refinance you in 6 months, you're going to have about $45,000 that we can put toward your principal payment or toward a refi at a lower interest rate. It's literally taking money out of the seller's pocket and putting in your pocket. It is the only legal way to take seller funds and put it in your pocket, and people don't know this. And Josh, I'm sorry that your bank or your private wealth manager doesn't explain this strategy to you, because they are only keyed in on your assets and making this as cheap as possible. But what I've been able to do with a lot of my clients is build a lot more wealth over time by just making sure that, one, about this strategy, and two, that you're managing the debt side of your balance sheet. Because if I can refinance you, Josh, twice a year for the rest of your life, I'm going to save you hundreds of thousands of dollars, and you're going to pay this thing off so much faster if that's what you opt to do. But I can see that you're making 9% on your investments right now. I looked at your Edward Jones statement, and you made 12% last quarter. So what we might do with that $900 savings is just put it in the Edward Jones account and let it make 9% while you're making payments at 5.875%. That difference is called arbitrage, that 4% difference. And that is why I have a client who has $150 million in the bank. And this is another thing I love to do. I love to tell stories. Has $150 million in the bank. He's buying a $5 million second home in Arizona, but he's making 9% on his investments, and he doesn't want to liquidate them and pay capital gains. Yeah. So he came to me, and we're able to give him an interest rate in the mid sixes on a bank statement loan, so he doesn't have to have his entire financial colonoscopy, and he's making that arbitrage. And so what I'm here to do is to simplify this and make sure that you have someone who has your back and is never going to, make a move on the financial side that doesn't support you. So Josh, do you understand that, right? And I said it to you guys super high level, but I'm really making it simple for my clients. So if I went fast there, I'm doing it in the spirit of time, but I will show them how, on a 3-1 buy down, the rate is 2.875 to start with, and on a 2-1 buy down, it's 3.875 to start with. And that we will need a seller payment subsidy of 62 grand for the 3-1 or 31 grand for the 2-1.
And that's what to negotiate, not the price.
And to negotiate that and not the price. And I'll show them the difference of the lower price at the market rate and make them understand that. And no one is going to teach it to them super slow so that they understand it, which I could slow down and do, but I just was going high level for you guys. But Greg, you asked about the commitment. Here's where I'll get the commitment. I'll say, Josh, before we did this, did you even know that this strategy existed?
No.
And that's the problem with my industry. Like anyone can quote you an interest rate. And a lot of the times, when you get to the end of the transaction, that lower interest rate comes with a price you didn't realize it came with. And my industry is just really disappointing. That's not how I operate. So if you see the value in this, I'm going to be a great fit for you and your family. Do you feel like I'm a good fit for you guys based on what we've done here?
Love it, bro. Yeah, I mean, Mark, you're so intentional, and you started this by saying, and you can drop your stream share if you don't mind. You started this by saying, look, I know that on a rate basis, I'm going to get my teeth kicked in. And so I've got to emphasize the value, and what a tactical way to do it. One of the big questions that came from everybody is, where can I get this tool? Well, the good news is that's something that Mark has created. But inside of MBS Highway, I've used this tool for years. And you go into Loan Advisor, you go into seller contribution, you can do the exact same thing. So here's a scenario that I put in where we put in a $2.1 million purchase price, same down payment that Mark did, same interest rate. Then we can compare that to a price break. So instead, we can say, if you reduce the sales price by $62,000, here's what your loan's going to look like. If you apply that $62,000 to a seller paid subsidy or a seller payment subsidy, then they can legally transfer money from their bank account to your bank account, subsidizing your mortgage for up to 3 years. And here's what they look like side by side. And right in this tool, it's going to show them, here's what the market rate is on that property. Your payment's $10,280. If you drop the price by $62,000, we're going to put $62,000 towards a price break or $62,000 towards a temporary buy down. If you, and I try to script through that seller payment subsidy, you're going to save $400 by dropping your payment by dropping the price 62 grand. Big whoop. Like, that is not a needle mover for somebody that's facing a $10,000 payment. But if we can get that payment down to $7,700, that's a needle mover. And then this will give you charts and graphs. Here's what your payments are over 5 years. The most expensive is not to ask for a concession. The second most expensive is to ask for a price break. The cheapest, more money in your pocket, less money in the seller's pocket option is the temporary buy down. So you guys should be using that tool. In the interest of time, and I think we're going to probably go a little long here, I want to do this. Dio, I'm going to bring you the same question in just a minute. And many of you have asked questions about the Loan Atlas and the content in the Loan Atlas. So I'm just going to quickly answer a few questions about the Loan Atlas because I've got a free gift for you that includes scripting stuff I want to make sure everybody gets. And Tim's given an incredible discount to all the MBS Highway members that are on this call. So I want to make sure I get that. And then I'm going to bring it over to you, Dio. And then I think we're going to hang out for a little bit after the top of the hour, if that's okay. So to answer the questions about the Loan Atlas, what is the Loan Atlas? The Loan Atlas is an online coaching community that has distilled all of the wisdom from Tim Braheem and the other 20 faculty members that have written over $29 billion in production, and we teach it in a very systematic way. That's what these guys have done. They've learned the techniques, they've executed, and they've prioritized sharpening their axe, not just swinging the axe at the tree. It's built on a foundation called the 8 disciplines of origination mastery. The first is essential knowledge. The second discipline is a system for selling. That's what we're working on right now. These guys have systems for selling. The third discipline is marketing mastery. How do you get more leads to come in? The fourth business discipline is team building and leadership, because if you're doing lead conversion and lead generation right, you better learn how to build a team so you don't blow things up. The fifth business discipline is systems of customer service. This is where Tim teaches his proprietary perfect loan process. And then there's 2 personal disciplines, mindset, health, and personal development. That's all about the inner game. Personal discipline number 2, time and task management. And then business discipline number 6, which is the final discipline, legacy and freedom. There are hundreds of modules that are detailed training how we do all of these things. And then we have compartmentalized that for you on an AI platform. We are helping the next generation become an AI-empowered originator. We have a system for teaching you how to use an AI-powered business intelligence system. Where do your leads come from? What's your conversion rate? Where are you spending your time that isn't manifesting in business? And we sharpen your focus. Then we help you generate an AI-powered business plan. Then we install AI-driven coaches, which have all of the knowledge of those disciplines that I just went over, and all the teaching modules and all the podcasts and everything Tim has taught Dio, Mark, and myself. And we've instilled that knowledge into our AI-powered sales coaches. So there's a sales and marketing advisor, there's a performance coach, there's a strategic thought partner. We are trying to help you do twice the amount of loans in half the amount of time by distilling the knowledge into AI. We've been working on AI for the last 18 months. We have created what's called an AI Lab series. So if you feel like you're behind, we're going to get you from 0 to 100 very fast. All of those are in our AI library. And we can all tell you that we think the Loan Atlas is the bee's knees, but where the rubber meets the road is the production numbers. And the reality is the average originator has written $5.6 million in production in the year previous to February 15th, 2026. The average Loan Atlas member wrote $13.8 million. So that's a delta of $8.2 million in additional production by doing the things that Dio and Mark have done, learning those tools, executing on them, and an income increase of $82,000 on average. So we've created for you guys, and there's a free gift I'm going to give you in just a second, so hang with me. We've created a offer for everyone that we've never done before. Never before have we done this. We understand the challenges in the market right now. We understand how hard it is to sell fluctuating interest rates that are moving at every minute, and to have a full pipeline and then an empty pipeline, and then a full pipeline and an empty pipeline. And we want to take all the friction away. So normally the Loan Atlas is $349 a month. We're going to bundle it with Home Report. So we're going to give you the Home Report as well, because I don't know any other email that has an 83% open rate and you can get in front of your past clients and referral partners so regularly. That would normally be $518 per month. We're going to give you your first month for $69. You're going to get immediate access to the Loan Atlas and the Home Report. And then each month after the first month, you're going to be at $269 a month for month 2 through 12. You're locked in, no increases after that. And it is a minimum of a 12-month commitment to this program. So you save $449 in month 1. You save $249 a month thereafter. And if anybody wants to join us in the Loan Atlas, we want to help you. We want to help you accelerate your journey and achieve the success you want in this market. If you join us by April 24th, we'll be happy to extend that offer to you. And last but not least, actually, no, sorry, I'm going to jump over here just real quick, team. Somewhere, there we go. We created 5 essential scripts for dominating at the point of sale. So we threw in these objections. What rate can you offer that can beat my credit union? What if rates go down right after we lock? I don't know if now is the right time with the market. Can I think about it and get back to you? And how are you different from Rocket or Zillow? So we threw those 5 objections into our AI sales and scripting coach, and we created a PDF that you can download for free, whether you join us or at the Loan Atlas or don't. If you go to theloanatlas.com/home report, you will have access. You'll be able to access those scripts. You can also go to theloanatlas.com/5-essential-scripts. We'll drop these in the chat for you so you can have these scripts for free. Just a little bit of a taste of the power of the AI sales and scripting coach that we have built. All right.
Josh, before you kick it over to Dio, can I just share one thing real quick?
Please do.
Okay, cool. So on the side, because I didn't want to put him on the spot on the call, I had pinged Mark after he was done presenting because I saw so many of your inquiries about the Excel spreadsheet that he presented, and asked him if he'd be willing to put that into the Atlas for the members. And he was very generous and said that he is going to give the Excel spreadsheet to us. So for those of you that want to have access to that tool, it is in the Loan Atlas. Well, it will be in the next day or two after Mark sends it over and we get it uploaded. Mark, thank you very much for your generosity there. The other thing I want to say, after Dio's done, we're going to get into Q&A, and there's something that I want to script you all on, so hang in there. It's on the topic of how to get the commitment. I'm seeing a lot of originators right now that are losing deals that they thought were theirs. They're fully approved. They're getting ready to go into a contract, and then the client starts shopping them again. And this is an important script for you to have, and I'm going to give you that script and how to set that up after Dio's done presenting. So back over to you, Josh.
Great. Thanks, Tim. Appreciate that. Okay, Dio, sorry for that side trail there. Let's talk about the scripting and the tools that you use inside of MBS Highway to nail that trust and understanding of the process in the pre-purchase consultation.
Yeah, absolutely. So as we're going into the pre-purchase consultation, trust is really most easy to come by when you establish authority. And that's one of the things that MBS Highway has been a piece of that's been a part of my toolbox. Really almost as long as I can remember. I remember Barry 20 years ago when I first got into the business. That was, I think he was in the business 20 years ago of doing the mortgage bond deal. But, I've always kind of known about it, but until I realized how to utilize it during my presentations, it was just a, really good handy tool to have in the background. So the way I start every conversation or every pre-purchase consultation is with this script. I say most lenders would like you to believe that there is one rate that you qualify for. But the reality is there's an entire range of rates that you qualify for. My role isn't to select that rate and to tell you what you get. It's really to guide you through the various options and help you walk through those so you can select the rate that best fits your scenario. So with that being said, let me share my screen, and I want to show you a little bit about mortgage rates and where they come from. We know, and let me know when my screen pops up. Just give me a thumbs up. So it's easy enough. Thank you. It's easy enough for us as originators to understand this, but customers really don't know. And the media does a very poor job of giving information on a delayed basis. And so I want to establish my authority that I know what's up with this market. And the way I do it is I use Barry's tool. So what you're looking at now is the current mortgage-backed security chart. This is where interest rates come from. Now, a lot of lenders would also like you to believe that they have a monopoly on great rates, but here's the reality. We all get our gas from the same pump. This is where it comes from. Now, I want to point out a couple of things that I think are important to you, because right now this probably just looks really, really super busy. So green is good, red is bad. And I want to point out something to you. So I know we're already in April, but back in February 27th, and I want to get specific here because it's important to me that I establish that knowledge with something that they'll know about. Okay. So luckily I have February 27th, which these are the lowest rates have been since August of 2022. Now, do you know what happened on February 28th? Does anybody remember? Well, that was the day that we attacked Iran. And you can see how that impacted the mortgage rate situation, demonstrated right there. Now, do you remember 2021? Just real quickly, I want to kind of show you, and we're going to jump back in time a little bit. So, do you see this is today? This is where the bond market was back in 2021. Did you do any financing in 2021 or know anybody that did? Typically, the client's going to tell me, yeah, that's back when rates were 2 something percent. Yeah, exactly. So you can see how far we've come. Well, that happened because the Fed was purchasing $80 billion a month of mortgage-backed securities. And anytime you create that much demand in a market, well, quite honestly, it made the end product really cheap. That's why it was so cheap to borrow money back then. So fast forward to today, and I'm going to go back to 6 months because I want you to understand this. Fast forward to today, you can see that the pricing on these bonds is significantly lower. What do you think that means to you as the consumer? And I want you to be quiet and listen because your customer is going to answer the question for you. And they're going to do what Josh just said. It's going to make the interest rate higher or it's going to make it cost more. And really, beyond that, the main thing that demonstrated is that I understand the market. Now, I may tell somebody, depending on where they are in the situation, do you see these little lock icons? So this is a professional grade analytics site that I subscribe to. And the reason I do that is because I need these little locks. These are lock alerts that get sent to me to make sure that if you're under contract and we've decided to float for a while, that we don't miss the market. And so I have people that are watching my back on your behalf, if that makes sense. So now beyond that, one of the other tools, at a minimum, on every presentation, pre-purchase consultation I do, I'm going to go over the bond chart and I want to demonstrate my knowledge with it. That establishes the authority. I'm going to show them the real estate report card for the area that they're searching in. You can see that I am extremely jealous of Mark's loan amounts. This is my average loan size in Arkansas. Okay. So a little different ball game here. But what does the real estate report card do? Well, it creates confidence in your buyer. I use this to show them the gain, the value of appreciation. I divide that by 60 months and explain to them how much that is per month. You would, I mean, be amazed at how their eyes change because a lot of them have said to me, well, now we're not going to be able to save any money monthly. Well, now I'm going to show them how they're saving money monthly. So this answers a lot of their questions. I'm also going to go over one of my clients' home reports. And most of the time, the current estimate is greater than when they purchased it. So they're able to see that appreciation taking effect. But they also like the idea that I'm going to be sending them this every single month, month after month, so that they can keep track. I mean, this is a financial statement for your home. And then, of course, I'm going to go over my presentation and my rules with my presentation. You can use the mortgage coach, your own spreadsheet. It doesn't matter. What matters, I found, is that if I don't answer some of that uncertainty, if I don't show somebody multiple options side by side, if there's a product that they asked about, I need to have that in there, even if it's not the best product, because I need to show them that they've turned over every stone and that there's no reason to go out there and find out what they're missing. So I'm almost going to give them a little bit of TMI when it comes to the mortgage options, et cetera. So the goal at the end of my presentation, ultimately, it's all based off of I want my client thinking to themselves or even saying to each other after they get off the call, well, we obviously don't have to worry about the financing. He's got his crap together. They know what they're doing. We're safe with them. Like that's how I want them to leave that call is we're in good hands, period. So that's really it, Josh.
The way that you teach is, go ahead, Mark.
I have just a couple of comments. Can you stop sharing, Dio?
Yeah, my bad.
No, it's not your bad. This is awesome. So just a couple of things. Like I hope what you guys saw, because a lot of you were like, oh yeah, $1 million loan amounts. Like Dio is doing the same thing. Mm-hmm. Like it's the exact same thing by showing that appreciation on the real estate report card, which is something I do on every single transaction as well. I'm showing the MBS Highway bond chart every single transaction, right? It's all relative. Like, sure, $900 a month is really attractive, but so is $100 a month for somebody buying a $200,000 home. So that's number one. Like, if you guys are asking yourself, oh yeah, it's not as impressive on a lower loan amount, you're missing it. Like, because if you don't think that's impressive, you're not really taking on the affordability that a client has when they're buying a house. $100 is a huge deal, right? So that's number one. Number two, what Dio said, just about like covering all your bases. You really have to make sure that you're giving them an FHA option, because your competitors will do a lot with FHA because it's more lucrative. So even if it's not the best for them, you better be showing it to them. So I love that point that Dio made. And lastly, make it simple, right? Hey, do you see on FHA how it has a lower interest rate, but it also has this upfront mortgage insurance, which is taking some of the equity out of your home. So like the difference in payment is this, but if we can do a buy down and get the payments within $30, you get to keep this 2% of equity in your house. And so that's what I think is best for you. But we can do either one, which is better, right? Just make it really simple when you're giving those examples. That was awesome, Dio.
Tim, I'm going to send it over to you. I just wanted to make one point. The inside of MBS Highway is their loan comparison tool. And this tool, they have been doing a lot of work on. So it's under Loan Advisor. You can do a purchase or a refi. This tool has been so incredibly up-leveled. And I know that you've done a series of updates to that tool. Is the most recent update launch, or you have one more to go?
Just last week, we released the latest one. So you'll see it there right now.
You want to give us just a few, just real quick highlights, like some of the things that you think are the major enhancements?
Of course. So team, in MBS Highway, the tool Josh is referring to is the loan comparison in Loan Advisor. So as you mentioned, you can click on purchase or refi. It brings you to the same place. Same tool, our loan comparison for different purposes. Don't forget you have a tutorial video up here where we'll walk you through it, but give us a call if you get stuck. But just to pre-fill the inputs so you can see what the results look like. If you've used this, which I know a lot of you do, it looks a little bit different now. Number one, you can drag and drop your loan options, which you weren't able to do before. Makes it nice and easy. But in the results, you'll see it's a much more succinct way of showing the data. So we used to have two different tabs. One said overview, one said loan details. Some people missed the loan details section. So we made it all in one view, where in the first table, you have everything when it comes to the financials. The monthly payment on each option side by side, all interactive with whatever year your slider bar is stopped at. The net cost graph showing you which option is best depending on how long you're in the home with the same loan, so you can see the different breakpoints. And then equity over time, where you can show things like the appreciation on the home based on whatever custom or our forecasted rate that you want to use. And something that's just not showing here right now is the reinvestment strategy. If you want to put something towards some kind of outside investment or maybe additional toward principal, that'll all be calculated here in the results. And then we'll show you the total equity over time based on, again, wherever you stop your slider bar at. And just one last thing at the bottom, a detailed side-by-side comparison where you can point different things out. You can highlight different fields by clicking on them, showing lowest number of points, lowest rate, and so on. And then you can also see an amortization schedule both on your end and the customer's end. And if you don't mind, I just want to take one more minute and show you my favorite way to share this, because I think a lot of you are, if you're not using this right now, definitely give it a shot today. So when you're going to share this, I think the best way is to record a video. Of course, if you're on a Zoom with the customer, you'll show it to them in real time. But if not, access your webcam, like so, and we can start talking to our customers now. You can even share your screen and show them the interactivity in the tool. So we'll start the recording. And now we're talking about the payments, the gain over time. You get the idea. We'll stop the recording, and it puts it all together for you in something that looks like this here. So you'll see the video. Make sure you start with a smile instead of this on your freeze frame. I'm talking in there. And then the customer can watch it side by side like so, where it's picture in picture, and you're really holding their hands. It's such a nice, customized, personalized way to give them the results.
I've got to admit, I didn't realize you had upgraded it like that. I'm going to start using that. Honestly, has all of the features that I need. I didn't realize it. This
is the best tool in the industry now. And kudos to Barry and Diana and Dan. We've been involved in focus groups, giving feedback. They've been very, curious what we can do at the point of sale to improve it. They've incorporated every bit of feedback that makes sense. And I think this is absolutely the best tool in the industry right now.
Thank you. Yeah, you guys were a huge part of this. So team, yeah, under Loan Advisor, loan comparison. And then that's where you'll also find the seller contribution tool that Josh showed before.
Tim, over to you, my friend.
Well, I'll just add real quick before I dive into the scripting on getting a commitment that I know that you guys put a lot of months and a lot of time and money into enhancing that. So great job. It looks fabulous. And you're removing the friction from implementation with the additions that you've put in there to just make it that much faster and easier for people to execute, which is the name of the game. So I promised at the beginning of the call that there's something that I've been identifying that a lot of originators right now are struggling with the commitment from the client and the loyalty from the client. Now, what Mark and Dio have displayed, I think, very substantially here is their presentation is all about generating loyalty. Loyalty comes through education. Loyalty comes through asking the right questions, showing the person that you really care about them and you have their best interests in mind ahead of your best interest in the way that you're going about presenting yourself. But once you've done that, now it's time to be bold. And I think that what happens for a lot of originators is that they're afraid to ask for the commitment of that borrower that they have put their time into. And as a result of that fear, they kind of go along their way and they make the assumption and hope that nobody thinks to compare or rates with somebody else. And then they find out, when the person finally finds a home, that now they're in a competitive situation again. And it's incredibly deflating. It's a jolt to your confidence. It can ruin your day. I'm sure that you've all experienced it. When I was an originator, I developed a script, and I want to just sidebar say that Tyler Osby, who is one of the great originators that I know with Fairway Independent Mortgage, he's been in the Highway Call Series before as a teacher. He'll be on the stage at the Mastermind Summit in Vegas, the Bellagio Hotel in June, and he will be speaking about this exact topic, actually. So I've been working with him on his presentation. So he does a slightly modified version, and I'm not going to even try to repeat his. I'm going to give you mine, but it's essentially of the same essence. When you are done bringing value, like Dio and Mark have displayed, it's incumbent upon you to lock in the commitment with the client, to not be afraid to ask for the commitment. And the way that I would do that was I would say something along these lines. I would say, okay, Dio, I'd say, if I were in your circumstances based upon the conversation that we've had, I think that 30-year fixed rate mortgage at no points with the lender with a borrower seller subsidized buy down is the right loan. I think that we're in agreement on that. Okay. The next question I have for you is this. Is there anybody else that you need to talk to? Is there anything else that you need from me to make sure that you have all of the information that you need for me to be able to make a decision and a commitment to be able to move forward? Because one of the things that I want to make sure that you understand is this, is that I don't get paid by the hour, like an attorney, like an accountant, like a financial advisor. My job is that I educate up front and then I get paid when the loan closes. So we're at the point in time in the development of our relationship where I need to value the time of my team. I have a commitment that I've made with my team as the leader that I'm not going to deploy their valuable time and ask them to move forward with doing a lot of work without knowing for sure that we have committed borrowers and buyers that we're working with. So is there any further questions that you have for me or anything else that you need from me before we move forward with pre-approval? Because I want to make sure that if we're moving forward with pre-approval, that you've done all of your shopping and that you're ready to commit yourself to us. Now, that takes a lot of bravado, but here's the thing. If you don't ask for the commitment, then you don't have any idea what's happening in the background. And the borrower may be rate shopping you, and then you're putting yourself into a situation where you're prone to being disappointed later on. And guess what? If the borrower says, I actually think that I still need to talk to a few other lenders, isn't that good to know right now? Great, no problem. I want to stay in touch with you. I'm going to keep you abreast of what's transpiring in the market. I want you to continue to use me as a resource. And when you feel that I've provided enough value to you to where you want to be committed to working with my team and I, then I'm going to turn my team loose and they're going to do a phenomenal job of getting your loan fully approved and making you a cash buyer. Now, there were times where that borrower would make that commitment to me. It didn't happen that often, but occasionally that they'd make that commitment to me. And then they'd go under contract and they'd call me and they'd say, hey, I was talking to my credit union and their rate's an eighth of a percent lower. And I'm wondering if you could match it. I'd say, whoa, I'm really surprised that we're having this conversation. I thought that we talked about this a couple of weeks ago. I've already deployed my team who, as I mentioned to you before, they don't get paid until the loan closes. Okay. And they've gotten you fully approved and they've done all the work. And I thought that we had been clear that you were going to do your shopping before we did all of our work, not after we've done all of our work. And I'd make them feel bad, okay? Because they deserve to feel bad after making a commitment and then wanting to renege on it. And then they'd backpedal and they say, oh, well, no, I just want to make sure that I'm getting the best deal. And then I'd circle them back to the previous times that we had conversations about how this is a long-term relationship, the stuff that you saw Mark talk about in his presentation about being able to manage the debt for them, et cetera. But it's really important for you to ask for the commitment, because when you ask for the commitment and they make the commitment to you, the natural tendency from that point forward is they stop shopping. But when you leave it open and you don't explain to them that you're working for free until that loan closes, they don't know any different. So they're going to keep shopping you. So that's something that I would strongly suggest. And if anybody has any questions about that, I'm happy to take them. And if you want to put any more questions in the chat, or if Mark or Dio or Josh wants to comment on that, feel free to.
Over to Dio. I saw you come off mute, Dio.
Oh, no, I was off mute. But what Tim says at the end, I mean, mine's very similar to that. But at the end of that conversation, I talk about the two paths we have. And one of those paths being getting fully pre-approved, fully underwritten so that you can write a 10-day offer. You know, most people will opt for that because of the competitive advantage it gives them as a buyer. And so when they say that they want that, and this honestly, admittedly, is a little bit weak. I'll be vulnerable here and admit that I kind of tie it to them wanting that full pre-approval. But I'll say, you know, listen, it's going to take quite a few man hours for me to activate my team in order to get that full pre-approval. Obviously, you know, I have to compensate them, but we don't get compensated until we close a loan. So before we do that, do I have your commitment that you're working with us, or did you need to do any additional shopping? So it's
beautiful.
It's a little bit, but I say it's weak. I need to do that on every single file and not just, you know, the majority that opt for that pre-approval. But one thing Tim taught me, you know, I'm a people pleaser, and the reason that I wasn't doing that commitment is because I was afraid of offending or hurting someone's feelings. But when I kind of had a perspective shift and realized, well, I'm just choosing whose feelings I'm hurting, because I'm either going to hurt myself later on, or I'm going to hurt my team's feelings, demanding them to work on something that may not be theirs. So I'd rather please my team and ask the question. And it, like Tim said, I've not had anybody that made that commitment come back to me. I've had a couple like that, the last minute, hey, but when you have that commitment on the front end, it's very easy to remind them. I thought we talked about this. Simple phrase, and they go, yeah, you know what? You're right. Forget I asked. That's the last time I had that happen.
Can you, I think that last thing that Dio said is really important. Like, it is tough, right? That's why I say, hey, does this make sense? Does this resonate with you? I think I'll be a good fit. If they say yes, I'll say good. I want to be your mortgage guy. I don't say, do you have additional shopping, because that's too scary for me. So, like, you know, maybe I should like add that to your point. You know, but I do say, look, here's the next step, Tim. I want to get you pre-approved so that you're as good as cash and we can remove that loan contingency. Here's the power that will provide you in this market. If we offer with no loan contingency, sometimes cash buyers don't even do that. They won't release cash until a certain time. And without this loan contingency, it makes you as good as cash. So in order for me to feel safe and really have your back, I need it to be completely pre-underwritten by an actual underwriter who's going to be underwriting your file. And so in order to do that, I need to make sure that you are 100% on board with using us as your mortgage advisor team. Is there any reason you wouldn't do that, Tim?
So let me just add, Mark, for you to try this out. I think that the thing that's missing from that, I think everything's great. I just think that you want to make sure that you're teaching them the fact that you and your team work for free for them until that loan closes, because that embeds guilt into the equation for that person, which is what you want.
Ah.
You want them to feel guilty for cheating on you. You're asking for a commitment, but you're also teaching them that to the extent that you don't follow through on this commitment, you have actually put me in a position where I'm a bad leader because I made a commitment to my team that we wouldn't move forward in getting fully approved for borrowers unless they're fully committed to us. And then that way, when that conversation comes up later, I can kind of like defend my team, to Dio's point. Like I can love on my team and speak on their behalf rather than having to defend myself. I'm like, gosh, now I got to go back to my team and I got to talk to them about the fact that you weren't fully committed, but I told them that you were. And then that starts to make them feel pretty shitty. And to Dio's point, they'll often just drop it. They're like, you know what, never mind them. And you got to show them, like, after tax, we're only talking about $19 a month. And you got to have that part of the conversation with them too. But it makes it a far higher conversion than if you just leave it open, don't ask for the commitment, and don't explain to them that what you're really doing here is you're putting people to work without them getting paid. You know, I have a client who Dio knows, his name's Kyle. He lost 2 deals last week just on this. What if one of those 2, what if 50% of them didn't end up going somewhere else because he had asked for the commitment? We're talking $5,000, $6,000, whatever it is, by having that kind of scripting in there.
I'd also just add that, fortune favors the bold. And what you're all hearing here is that being bold and asking for the commitment and putting yourself out here. I mean, that's the whole theory behind the Challenger salesperson. Anybody who's read that book, the best salespeople in the world aren't the most charming. They're not the best scripting. They're the ones who challenge the assumptions of our clients and say things that others are afraid to say. Last thing I'll add on this is, if you have used the seller payment subsidy program and somebody's getting a 2.875% rate in year 1 or a 3.875 rate in year 1, you have a lot less chance that you're going to get reshopped after the deal goes under contract.
Yep.
So true. What I started with, though, is like, what surprised me is when someone calls you and says, hey, my credit union offered me this, and you say, hey, we had this conversation. I paid my underwriters and my team to like get this pre-approved for you before all this happened. So help me understand this, right? And they're like, hey, you know what? You're right. It's all good. I'm going to live up to my end of the bargain. And they just go forward with the deal. If you haven't had that conversation, what are you going to say?
Yeah,
Exactly. Any other questions that anybody has that we can help with? And I don't know, Diana, how long you're willing to hang out for, because you're the one who's hosting this call.
I'm free for a while.
I don't know if it's your lunchtime right now that we're trampling on, or
no, it's okay.
Somebody
really
had a question in there of a similar approach for people you were afraid of EPOing us. First off, I never do a loan for anybody that I think is planning on EPOing me. And if someone does have a loan that they only need for a short time, I have no fear in telling them, hey, I need your absolute commitment that you're not going to pay this off before you've paid 6 payments, period, or I won't do the loan. Simple as that. It's just point blank. I mean, I eat an EPO, so it's important to me. I'm not going to do a loan that I know is coming back.
Yep. And that happens with me a lot, because a lot of people are buying non-contingent and then selling their departing property, and on a $2 million loan, think about what the EPO is. And so the same thing. Hey, Dio, look, unfortunately, like, this is how it works. And unless you make 6 payments, and I'll do the interest payments, and I'm like, totally fine if you don't want to do this. I'm not your guy. Will you promise me, right?
So I want to cement this for a second with what both of you were talking about, what this whole context of this conversation is from a psychological perspective, because it's very important to understand. You are nothing. Your product is nothing if you don't like your product, if you don't believe in your product, if you don't have respect for your product, and the product is you. So on a deeper psychological level, one of the most important things for us to understand is that this brave statement of I'm good enough to ask for your commitment is an incredibly important message to send to yourself, even if you don't get the deal. Because then you can walk away and have conviction with, like, I respect me. When you continually allow yourself to engage in relationships with realtors or with borrowers that don't have you asking for a commitment from them. You're actually sending the opposite message, which is, I'm actually really not very good. I'm afraid to ask for the commitment because I'm not worthy of asking for the commitment. Okay, now try that on when you go to sell to another person. You're coming in with a massive deficit at that point. So I really want everybody to take this part of this like very seriously from a relationship with self perspective. It's very important. Any other questions?
You guys did such a good job of answering the ones I saw on your teaching in the chat there, and a lot of Loan Atlas questions. And if there are more Loan Atlas questions, the resources that we're going to send to you today, just to recap everything as we're finishing up here, a lot of you have asked. Number one, the recording. All of this will be in one email, by the way. The recording, first of all. Second, you'll get those 5 free point of sale downloadable scripts. Third, the link to book a demo with the Loan Atlas team. And then Mark, as he was so kind to share his Excel spreadsheet, while it's not in the Loan Atlas at this very second, it'll be there soon, so hang tight for that one. But guys, if you have any final closing thoughts, I think we'll start wrapping it up.
I'll just answer Matt's question. Matt, we underwrite our own loans, so I'm not having to choose a place. I wouldn't, me personally, just the way I roll, I would, whoever pre-underwrote that file for me, I would send it back to them, regardless of the difference in price. I certainly wouldn't make a habit of doing that if you needed, that in the market. If you're going to use that tool, they're providing you value, right? Whoever's doing that for you, whoever the wholesale lender is, you need to, repay them on that value. I just think putting good karma out there into the world. But for me personally, I'm sending that to my in-house underwriter. I'm not brokering that file up.
Thanks, Mark. One other quick one. Josh, someone asked, forgive me, I missed it before. The book that you mentioned, a couple of people are asking.
The Challenger Salesperson.
Thank you.
Great sales training book.
Sean, I would call that client today and say, hey, Sean, you know what? I just thought of something that's going to give you so much power in this market. What I'd like to do is go the extra mile and XYZ. Ask him for the pre-underwritten and pre-approval. To do that, I just need to make sure I'm your guy.
Well, thank you guys so much. First of all,
Thank you, everybody.
Mark and Dio, as our newest members here on our calls, thank you so much for giving us your time and of course your knowledge. And then Tim and Josh for your time always. You guys are so generous with your time and the members and friends that you bring on to help our members here. And to those of you guys and gals that joined us today, we really hope you walk away with a lot of new knowledge. I know I listened very intently during these calls, and for you guys to bring this to your clients and referral partners alongside the help of things like MBS Highway, Loan Atlas, Home Report, and so on. So thank you all so much. We're going to have more of these calls for sure. And reach out if you need anything. Thank you.
Good luck,
Honor.
everybody.
All right, guys, go crush it this week.